guys, I'm Laura Vitale, and today I'm so excited to bring you this recipe because my classic dinner rolls have been so popular here over the past couple of years, and since then pretty much everyone that watches that video emails me asking me if I can show you how to make basic breadsticks, because you know I love starting with the basic and then going from there, because I think once you have the basic recipe down, then you can flavor them up a million different ways. So today I'm going to share with you my soft and delicious, buttery, absolutely phenomenal breadsticks that are perfect every single time, and they really couldn't be easier to make. The ingredients you'll need, you're going to start with some bread flour. You're going to need some salt. I've got some olive oil. You'll need a mixture of granulated sugar and brown sugar, along with some active dry yeast and some warm water. Now, very, very simple. The first thing we're going to work on is actually activating the yeast, because you want the dough to rise. So I'm going to add my yeast to my warm water, along with just a pinch of sugar, because that's really what feeds the yeast. And now you are going to set this aside for, I would say, 3 to 4 minutes, or until the yeast starts blooming and it gets all cloudy and it smells really fragrant. And it's really important that your yeast does bloom and it does activate, because if it doesn't, it means that your yeast isn't activated. If it's not activated, your dough won't rise, and if your dough won't rise, your breadsticks will be hard as a rock. Nobody wants hard breadsticks. But while that's happening, I'm just going to take my bread flour. Now, I'm using bread flour because I find that for breadsticks, I really enjoy a softer, sort of chewier texture. So I'm using bread flour. If you don't have bread flour, all-purpose flour will do, but I just prefer bread flour. And since I bake so often, I always have it on hand. So I'm going to use that because that's just what I always tend to use for breadsticks. I'm going to add that and my salt in a large bowl. Well, in the bowl of my standing mixer, I should say. A little bit on the counter. Why not? It's not like anyone else is going to clean for me. And then I'm going to add my brown sugar and my granulated sugar to this mixture as well. I like to just kind of crumple this up with my fingers. And now I'm just going to wait for my yeast to bloom, and then we'll add everything in, mix it, and we'll get it rising. It's really easy. This looks perfect. It's exactly what you want it to look like. You see it's all foamy. That is good. When you see that, you know your yeast is doing good stuff, and it's going to do even better stuff once it's all together. I'm going to add this to my flour along with my oil. And now what I'm going to do is, on low speed, I'm going to just incorporate everything together, and then I'm going to increase the speed to about medium and let it mix for about 4 to 5 minutes, or until I have somewhat of a smooth dough. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's there. So off it goes. This looks perfect. It's been about 5 minutes now. Do not be tempted to add any more water to this, because once you start to get it going, it will just kind of look like it's really dry and falling apart. Do not be tempted to add any more liquid, because what happens is, once you let it go, the flour will absorb into the liquid. So you just need to give it time. That's why 5 minutes works perfect. Sometimes you need a couple more minutes, but this is what you're looking for. It's really smooth. It's not tacky at all. It's quite smooth and lovely. I'm going to put it back into the same bowl that I had my dry ingredients in. I just oiled it with a little bit of olive oil. You could use vegetable oil. You could use whatever you want. I just do that so it doesn't form a skin. And now I'm going to just wrap this up, pop it somewhere nice and warm, and let it rise for about an hour and a half or so, or until it's really nicely doubled in volume. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's there. This looks gorgeous. My dough has risen beautifully, and now I'm ready to get these shaped. Now I've got some all-purpose flour. You can use bread, this is actually bread flour, excuse me. You could use all-purpose flour is what I meant. Just flouring my surface a little bit, like so. Deflating my dough. Oh, it's so gorgeous. It really is just beautifully risen. And then all I'm going to do is, I want to kind of pat this into a rectangle that's about, I'd say, 10 by 15 or so. I'm really not being precise at all, because, homegirl don't play that. I do not have the kind of patience to stay here with a tape measure or whatever you use. You want about, I don't know, 10 by 15, I'd say. I always use like a baking sheet. This, for example, is a 17 by 15 inch. So use that to kind of guide you along if you need to. But this is looking pretty much where I want it. I just want to make sure, the only thing I'm kind of finicky about is making sure everything is the same thickness so that no parts are thinner than others. But do your best. Just kind of pat them into place, and see what I'm doing is I'm kind of just squaring things off so that everything will kind of meet. And then I'm going to get about 18 out of this. So just make little marks first, and then that way when you cut them, you know you've got enough. And then once you cut your strips, now I want you to see what I did here, because I just have a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. What I do is, you don't want these to be a twist, but what I do is I just twist them one time, just like so. Why I do that? I don't know. My head tells me to. They look pretty. And that is it. Now, obviously some are longer than others, but what's important is that they're all the same thickness so that they bake evenly. Now, these need to rest for another 20 to 30 minutes. It depends. I'm trying to get my mapines out of here. And you just want these to double up a little bit before we bake them. Now, these are, as you can see, humongous breadsticks because, let's face it, carboholic. I love bread. Not ashamed to say it. If you come up to me with a 4-inch breadstick, I might throw it at you, okay? I want a nice big size breadstick here. I want my bread, I want to actually be able to taste it. So that's why I make really huge ones, but you are more than happy to just cut it in half, and then you'll have double the amount of breadsticks. It is completely up to you after all. Cover these up, let them rise, and I'll show you what to do last step before they go into the oven. Feeling bossy today. These look amazing. They've been resting for about 30 minutes. Now what I have here is some melted unsalted butter, and then my little concoction. I've got some sea salt, I've got some garlic, granulated garlic, and some Italian seasoning, and I'm just mixing these together. I prefer to use sea salt here, but any kind of salt you prefer is fine with me. You don't need a lot of this, you just want a light sprinkle. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush the tops with some melted butter. I want these to develop really good color and also just get a little more flavorful. And last bit. And then you just take your little seasoning concoction and you just sprinkle a little bit on each one. And you could also do some Parmesan cheese if you wanted to. I like to stick with this because I just think it's a really good flavor combination. It's not too overpowering. And then I like to do Parmesan cheese for like a different take when I do like shredded Asiago and Parmesan breadsticks, which I can do a different recipe on that, but it's really easy. And now these are going to go into your oven. I have my oven preheated at 400. They'll be in there for like 10-15 minutes or until they're really beautiful golden brown. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. My breadsticks baked for about 12 minutes, and now what I like to do when they come out, as soon as they come out of the oven, I like to brush them with just a little bit more butter, and it just keeps them really soft and buttery and just absolutely gorgeous. That's a step, of course, you can skip, but I'm not going to. These just smell absolutely phenomenal. I just want to just make sure that I brush this butter on top. You don't want to add too much. You'll need just a couple tablespoons for all of them. Again, you're not soaking them in butter, you're just kind of giving them a light little brushing. Oh, it's hot. Timer's off, but look how soft that is. Look at that. Perfection. Hot though. So good. Totally foolproof, so easy to make. LauraInTheKitchen.com will have the recipe waiting for you. If you remake these, remember to share a picture on social media so I can see your recreation. I hope you love them as much as I do. Nothing is better than homemade baked goods, in my opinion. And once these are baking and your house smells absolutely so fantastic, you'll know why. Making bread at home is so addictive, and nothing tastes better than hot bread. Like I said, LauraInTheKitchen.com will have the recipe. Hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.